What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Actuali Podcast. I'm Chris,
I'm DJ.
and today we have a
Mm.
guest, Miss Juliana Garces. Am I point this way?
Mhm.
Yeah, right over
Thank you
here.
for having me.
Yeah, welcome. So, Juliana is a visionary artist that I've actually interviewed previously on the podcast. You have to scroll back about 3 years to find that one, but it was a really intriguing episode for me to share in with you. And so, I guess we can revisit a lot of topics that we covered before, but I'd be really curious to hear what's been going on in your world lately, and if you'd like to give yourself, a brief introduction, and about the kind of art you create and why you do it.
Absolutely. I would say technically I am an artist, both a visual artist and poet, but to me, my main focus is my spiritual practice and sharing that with others, kind of like little diary entries along the path to seek awakening so that we can all compare
Cool.
notes. And sometimes so many of those experiences on the spiritual path transcend words, so
Mhm.
the visual art can be very helpful for having people feel related. And sometimes the poetry also will transcend words and feeling. So my focus is to create
Yes.
as high vibrational images and poetry as possible to help all of us tap into that place of infinity, of pure consciousness, of remembering not something new, but something that is home, that's deep within each of us.
Mm.
Um, so that's my practice to do meditation, to try to live as mindfully as possible, and have the creation also be part of my spiritual practice, attempting to portray subjects of enlightenment, of source, or anything that can be put on canvas that is transcendental, and trying to push those limits of how far we can, not just myself, but my students and hopefully other people that see my art, to inspire them to push the limits of what can be put on canvas.
Wow. Okay. That was it's awesome. Okay. So
Mhm.
you mentioned
Thank you.
students.
Yes.
Are you teaching art now?
Yes, I
Oh,
have
cool. So where do
visionary
you do
art
that? In what
students.
capacity?
So I do it online, and I have students all
Awesome.
over the world. I teach them how to receive visions. So how to do that through meditation, through lucid dreaming, through hypnosis, and a variety of other vision methods, and then how to bring them into the physical realm.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, and where can people find out about that?
They can find out about it through my website, julianagarcesart.com, or just any of my social medias, just message me.
Okay. So look for that in the description of the video, guys. There's links already there for you all. You can find Juliana's um, website, her Facebook, her YouTube, and her Instagram. So make sure you give
Yeah,
her a like and a follow and check out her art
thank
because
you.
it's amazing. We're actually going to go through some of her art. She shared with me some
Thank you.
pictures of some of her stuff and something recent that she's working on. So stay tuned for that because it is profound. It's really cool. I like it.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to get into that shortly. You, before we started recording here, you mentioned that you got to meet Alice and Allison Gray. Now, when did this occur now?
Oh, yeah, so I've
And if,
met him
for people who
a
are
few.
not familiar,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
former or fellow visionary artists.
Yeah, I've met them a few times and gone to Cosm, but back in, I believe, October or November last year, we did a show where they were doing live art. It was here in the LA area, and I got to display a few pieces, some pretty large pieces, and got to meet with lots of wonderful people and discuss the art and consciousness and all the wonderful things I love to talk about.
Awesome. Wow, what are they
Mhm.
like?
They're really talented. Yeah, really admire them and their technique and persistence with
Their art
trying to
is
create
amazing. Yeah.
beautiful visions. Yes.
Hmm. They seem like really sweet people too. I've watched their podcast a few times.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah. And what was Cosm like? So Cosm is a temple that Alex and Allison Gray have built on their property, I believe, near where they live. And it's an amazing building, and I'd love to visit it myself sometime. So, what was that experience like visiting Cosm for you?
Yeah, so I went to COSM back in 2018, I believe, and it was very inspiring to be there and be with a bunch of other people that were very passionate about visionary art and see a studio of, such a prolific artist and, look at all their paint brushes and all, I get all curious about like kind of what supplies they use and their
Cool.
art studio is actually in their home, so we got to get a little tour and yeah, very inspiring place for anybody interested in visionary art. Just a great hub for meeting other visionary artists and people that are very inspired with creating artwork about consciousness, about spirituality, and uh, plant medicines or meditation, and all these kind of mystical subjects.
Right. On that subject, last episode with you, we talked about lucid dreaming a lot. And that was something that really fascinates me. I've only ever done it a couple times in my life.
Mm.
And you actually gave us some really good tips that I should actually put to practice so that I can lucid dream more. But beyond lucid dreaming, you actually have a lot of experience with astral projection. My co-host and great friend here, DJ, is also someone that has incredible dreams. He tells me these stories, and his dreams are like these long, continuing episodes of a main story. And so,
Some of them I have various narrative threads going on. Um, I have had multiple levels of lucidity within dreams as well. You know, it's kind of like a misnomer.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, lucid dream, you can do stuff. It's like, but there's distinct levels or what feels like pressures of dreams. You know, there's the surface level lucid where you're still like in your own mind, in your own thoughts. Usually that's where it's like, oh, I want to fly, right? You know, that's
Mhm.
the first step. And then there's, I guess, stepping out. So, like, what I've experienced is there's kind of a, I see it as a gray realm where everybody who's sleeping and close enough in proximity to sleep cycle to you or is kind of existing in and milling about. A mishmash of familiar shapes and places, if you will, that you construct. And a warning: if you find yourself there, don't try to wake anybody up. It doesn't go well, and it's terrifying.
oh my gosh.
But
Mm.
you can, like me and Matt, an old roommate of ours way back in the day, we were syncing up as far as our sleep cycles and habits. And I found him in that realm, and he saw me, and I brought him into the first level. The oh, you want to fly realm. But then there's something that is profoundly deeper, that almost seems to be facilitated by what I would describe as like the helpers. And
Hmm.
for
Mm.
me, it's creatures with large eyes that look into you, or like little gnomish fellows, and you get a really uneasy, almost terror feeling from them. But if you follow through and follow them, I don't want to say awaken, but it feels like, when your brain goes from sleepy to awake, it feels like that, like the eyes opening
Mm.
another time, right?
Mhm.
And that is the next layer of this onion. And then from there, I really do believe that there is contact that you can have with other people and things. Because I have, moved into areas of this onion where there was, distinct people that you can see them, you can look at them, but then there's other people, personalities, if you will, that you can't really see because you don't have an image definition for that, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So you don't
Mm.
see it. And I see full color, I feel pain, smells, tastes, all that stuff. Very visceral. But what's where I've been delving most of late is the standard dreaming end, and how, or what that, what does that do for you, and why do you go through that? And that's where a lot of this narrative stuff comes up, and these stories that I have come up. But then also sometimes the stress of the day, but sometimes, you need to know something about yourself and you got to find it. Sometimes it's thrown at you and you don't want it. And, that's the closest thing I get to a nightmare anymore. But
Mm.
yeah, but, there's many, many layers to what we do in our sleep that is not just regular dreams or what the lay person would say is lucid dreaming, because then there's a layer that's even deeper and deeper and very personal, where you're all alone in your own little universe creating everything and watching it go by as well. There's like a public unconscious and a very private unconscious as well.
Mm.
And yeah, not the greatest at describing stuff, but you give me long enough, I can give you kind of a picture.
Mhm.
But yeah, some good stories though. If only I could write. Not my strong suit.
I actually think we should write down some of your stories sometime, and I'd be happy
That'd
to
be
help
good.
you with that, because there's some really powerful storylines you got going on there. He's been through a lot in his dreams, and
Mm.
I know that you begin to actually get into spirituality in general because of lucid dreaming. I remember you telling me you started dreaming when you were young, like 14 or so, lucid dreaming.
12. 12, yeah.
12, okay, even
Mhm.
younger.
That was the
And
same time with me as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, something about that
there
age.
must be something about
Mhm.
that age. I was just thinking about
Mhm.
that.
Oh, maybe that's the age where you truly wake up as a fully thinking individual, and your childhood was a dream.
Hmm.
I don't
Mm.
know. At least memories of my childhood felt very much that way.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, fair deal of trauma. Just growing up, as traumatic as it is. So, and that kickstarts dreaming. My first
Mm.
dream was being followed around by the terror monster
Mm.
that you know followed me around for a good long time, and it's still always there. Reminds you when
Mm.
things are dangerous, like don't do that. That's not a good
Ah,
idea.
wow.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
So there's some agency to that.
So
my
from the
first
last,
lucid dream was
oh, go
also
on.
through a nightmare.
Hmm.
I remember you
Yeah, so
saying that.
waking myself out of nightmares, which is kind of ironic. I feel like, in a way, once we no longer want to be in the dream, we start becoming lucid, both in the dream
Yeah,
world and perhaps in this world.
Yeah, right? And that's yeah, because our dreams themselves are like dreams within dreams, as we begin to wake up to the reality of what we truly are. Um,
Hmm.
we realize that everything before that was like a dream. It was like a mental projection of an idea
Absolutely.
that we thought ourselves to be.
so
Yeah.
if you don't mind me asking, what was your mechanism for waking yourself up? Like me, mine was I blink and I blink again and open my eyes and I'd be awake. Did you have like a mechanism that
Mm.
you used that you figured out to wake yourself up, or was it just like a willing?
At first, it was willing, when I was younger, but since then, I've learned that it's very in tune with the breath. So to stay in the REM sleep
Mm,
and in dream sleep, we have to keep the breath consistent, a certain rhythm. So if I stop breathing for just a second or breathe a little
mm,
faster, it's my exit method. And if I want to stay in a lucid dream or astral projection, I will keep the breath consistent on purpose to prolong
yeah.
it for what sometimes can feel like hundreds of years.
Oh yeah. Oh
Wow.
yeah.
Mhm.
I know that feeling.
Wow.
Um, yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the breathing, because like almost everybody who's experienced lucid dreaming inevitably ends up waking themselves up with that that excitement. It's
Mhm.
like, oh man,
That
and then the heart
excitement is
gets
the
going and
breath.
the breath changes and it
Mhm.
wakes you right up. You know.
Yep, it's about, like, even though one might be excited, especially at first when one starts to do it, keeping that breath steady really helps. And
Mm.
lucid dreaming and astral projection are a wonderful opportunity to play out any desires one might have, because in this realm, in the physical realm, manifesting or accomplishing things can sometimes be relatively slow in comparison to the dream world.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
if we go
Yeah.
into lucid dreams or astral project, we can fulfill all those desires that are holding us up, that we still hold in our hearts. May that be, flying over here, doing this or anything our mind can imagine, because we can do anything our mind wills in the dream realm. And then once we play all those out, which in the dream realm we can play out like pretty quickly, one night's sleep can be hundreds of years worth of doing things. Eventually, after long
Mm.
enough of practicing, of fulfilling all those desires, one has no desires anymore. One's played them all out, and then there's the ultimate desire left, the final desire that eventually destroys all desire, which is enlightenment. So for me,
Mm.
lucid dreaming and astral projection was a huge help for playing all those out, all those desires being done, and then now I can focus on, the true goal, the ultimate goal, the final goal, which is liberation.
Wow. I'm kind of impressed by your lucidity in this waking realm to remember to do that kind of work while you're in your lucid dream. So is that something you were consciously thinking about once you started lucid dreaming, that you
It's
were gonna?
something. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that it was something that you had planned ahead on while you were, in the wakeful state to do to work on getting through various temptations and karmic challenges and whatnot? Or was that something that you discovered while you were in the midst of a lucid dream?
Yes, apologies, there's a slight lag, so sorry if I cut you off for a
You're right.
sec,
Yeah.
but, um, it's something that happened naturally. So, naturally, when one has the opportunity to do anything, one's in this astral realm or lucid dream realm, and one can instantly manifest anything or go anywhere, dance on Saturn's rings, go to Egypt, become a butterfly, whatever you want. Um, you start doing it. And after a while, you do it and do it, and you start realizing that it doesn't provide that ultimate
Mm.
satisfaction. It's not perpetual,
Uh,
it is a temporary pleasure that is done and then passes away. And you start to realize that in this life also, that all these pleasures of obtaining objects or going places, or are temporarily experiences that eventually dissipate, and then one starts to seek that more perpetual happiness, that deeper happiness that comes through spiritual practice and through ultimately enlightenment. But
Mm.
becoming lucid in dreams through lucid dreaming or astral projection, I feel is a big cue for also starting to become lucid in this physical realm as another layer of dreaming. So, with enough meditation, enough practice, we start to see the dream here, and we start to become lucid here also for small glimpses, and then hopefully over time, more perpetually.
mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So on the topic of these pleasures, it almost seems, it's like once you've run them through and you've done these things, you come to a pass that you have to get over, and that's the pass of pleasure driven or purpose driven. Because
Mm,
like in dreaming, I get the most out of it when it's purpose driven. So like in my narrative dreams, there is a purpose. This character that I am is doing a thing, has a purpose behind it. And then as I wake up, I can, mull over like you would reading a good story. What were the moral points of this and that or the other, instead of just having fun within the dream itself.
mhm,
Because that's okay. It's kind of like like taking mushrooms or dropping acid or something. Yeah, you can do it for fun and you'll get that feeling, but after a while, it loses its shiny. And then if you're honest with yourself, it's like, well, it was never about the shiny. It was, what am I here to do? What am I doing here? And how can I help? In the case of dreaming, how can I help myself do what I need, figure out what I need to do first off, and then do what I need to do,
Mm.
and truly participate in that, instead of just, because I think a lot of our experiences through life are not really participation events. We're just going along with it. You get up, you go to your job, you do your thing, you're driving in traffic, you're watching the show that everybody's watching because everybody's watching it. You need something to talk to when you go out to the bar after work, and all that stuff. It doesn't satiate that feeling you get when you're actively participating in something. That's why we love sports and other stuff like that too, because vicariously you get that feeling of participation by watching another individual go through that.
Transcend their own capacities, and there's also the belonging, the sense of
Yeah.
community when you're doing that with other people that are also interested in seeing that person or that team transcend themselves.
Yeah. And
there seems like we're really missing fellowship in our modern culture. We're missing that shared sense of reverence and worshipfulness that we used to engage in, every culture across the planet.
Yeah,
and that's
sorry, go ahead.
no, after you, please.
Yeah, that it's also a great opportunity in the dream realm where we can tap into that ultimate connectiveness where everything is there. Uh, and that brings us into another form of lucid dreaming that I find particularly interesting now, which is not dreaming in the world of form, so no longer in the perceived and perceiver, but going to the space which can be accessed through the lucid dream realm where there is no form, which some in I've seen in some yogic texts refer to being conscious in deep sleep, where it's pure being, pure awareness. That's a really interesting kind of step to explore when one is on the lucid dream path.
Fascinating that you can do that while you're lucid dreaming. I remember you speaking of how you met Buddha, and you actually
Yes.
asked somebody to guide you in the
Yes,
lucid
yes.
dream to Buddha, and they took you to Buddha, and you'd actually had all these questions in your mind that you were going to ask Buddha, but when you got to him, all the questions were answered by his pure, perfect presence,
Yes, yes.
and
All
that was a
answers fell
beautiful story.
away. It was all answered. There was just a deep sense of just sitting, just being, and everything
Wow.
being answered already, everything being done.
What was he like visually for you in that moment?
In I would say the way I saw him was, I actually just recently did a artwork portraying how I've seen Buddha or how I, experienced Buddha, where very often we see Buddha as more of kind of cartoony sculptures, especially, but very rarely do we actually see him as a human, which, I've only really seen him portrayed as a human maybe in a few documentaries, just out of necessity of there being an actor. But most sculptures are more in a cartoony sense. So I set out and painted a more realistic version, more human-like version of Buddha so that we can relate that he was a person that was able to attain enlightenment, and we can too if we see the humanness in him, not as some statue, some
Mm,
god that's, in the far distance, but another human that was able to reach that final goal and we can relate to in our humanness and reach that final goal also. But when I saw him in the lucid dream realm, he was as a person made very closely to how I depicted him. And he was in a realm of pure light. So it was like basically a realm of very almost like pastel rainbow light. And he was sitting there quietly with a soft smile.
mm,
Pastel. It's interesting that you mentioned
Mm,
that because so
mm,
my first time doing DMT, the entrance into the trip, which felt very familiar, which it's basically just going from awake to lucid without going to sleep. But pastel was the theme. Instead of
mhm,
having these bright
mm,
psychedelic colors, it's very pastel.
mm.
Um,
Almost clay-like. Yeah.
so it was interesting that you brought up, the the depth of dreaming that is no longer visual in objects. And I have this theory about what how the brain is interpreting these. So like I'll break it down like this: the waking world is physical objects and shapes and things that then your brain creates an emotional uh, quality to it. And I don't mean like happy, sad, but like the emotional end quality to it, in order to remember it. The dreams are emotional qualities that you experience that then your waking brain or the articulating brain then forms into objects. And so there's a practice that I used to do a lot more that it probably should, but it helps with memory at a glance, is to like say like look at your wall and give yourself like 10 seconds looking at it and then close your eyes, and instead of trying to remember the objects, remember them by feel and then
Mm.
reconstruct them from the feel.
Hmm.
Because I feel that dreams are very much that. Your brain is, whether it's just inside yourself or if you're actually projecting and going deeper, is taking on information and experience on an information and experience basis through, you have emotions, you have, textures, other things that aren't like, directly visual or object oriented. But your brain, in order to understand it and to communicate with your other part of your brain, forms it into familiar things. And, one of the places I went and experienced others there was the visual aspect of it was a mishmash of familiarities. Like, there was like a trailer there with a back porch and a picnic table, but then there was other structures and a tall building and a glade in the middle of it. And, just all this stuff and not completely solid. It's like, as you turn and move, it turns and moves with you. Kind of like those early AI art generation
Mm.
movie things, similar to that.
Hmm.
But that's, my assumption is that's my conscious and their conscious, and the way we see things kind of, in constant negotiation with each other, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how I describe music too. It's a constant negotiation between the players. So in this
Mm.
shared realm, it's a negotiation between those, not actively like, oh no, okay, well, I want it over here and I want it over here, but just intuitively,
Hmm.
very much how we exist with each other walking down the street,
And the finished song is like, or the harmonies and things when they hit is like the celebration of the achievement of that interaction.
Yeah.
That negotiation.
But yeah, it was just interesting that you brought up the non-physical side of dreaming, which is really hard to talk about. Like, how do you talk about a thing that doesn't have a thing that you can reference? Well,
Mm.
art is one way. You can use symbology and color and the hinting at lighting to get something across that words can't necessarily.
Mm.
And even if you like paint a picture of a person, well, okay, yeah, that's a person sitting there, with their arm like this, but like, what is the light? How does the light make you feel? What is, the shape of the person, the look on their face, like, are they doing anything fancy with their hands, or, is there a little symbol up in here and other things like that that's encoding more information than just literacy and what's the other word for spoken literacy? Vocabulary can convey. And, I do appreciate the visual artists who can do that. Like, my father is very good at that. I didn't get that gene. I got the music gene. So I really appreciate people who can show it physically. It's a wonderful thing. And you can dig real deep, particularly with the big pieces. If you put a big piece, you can put a lot into that really big piece,
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I remember from talking to you before too that you when you're painting from experiences that you've had in the spiritual realm. So actual experiences and beings that you've met are what are ending up in your visionary art, if I'm understanding correctly. And of course, there's the
Yes.
transcendent realm beyond the spiritual realm that is ineffable and indescribable, and it's unpaintable and unspeakable as
Yes.
well.
Ultimately, that is the most inspiring realm, the formless realm, the realm of the infinite self of pure awareness. But it is also, ironically, of course, the hardest to depict
Yeah.
because, one maybe can make a blank canvas or shine a light at someone, but that may
Yeah.
not
Right. Yeah.
convey the experience. It is something that very often can be pointed to, but the only way to truly feel it is through direct experience, either through very profound meditation or sometimes certain plant medicines, like especially I've heard 5-MeO and have experienced 5-MeO being particularly found of taking one to that realm, or through
Mm.
skillful lucid dreaming, particularly going to the formless realm. But um, I tried to see what is the last amount of form that exists right before it all dissolves into the formless, into that place of pure light, pure consciousness. And I try to depict that the stage right below, so that it's close enough where people can just on their own jump off, and go
Mm,
past that. And recently, a lot of the images that I have been seeing before it all dissolves into pure light is these diamond realms. So I've been very inspired. I've been working on some
mm,
degrees of diamond realms where it's all made out of almost like crystals that are transparent, beings and temples,
mm,
and everything gets brighter and brighter, like almost like rainbow light going through it until it all dissolves into pure white light. So I've been working on some
mm,
pieces, and actually a series of pieces of these jewel diamond realms, and I've done a few pieces about that subject, but I don't say I would was conveying them quite to the degree that I'd like to. And I'm working on getting better at depicting that and doing a series. But it's still in the works, so there's still some time until it will be shared with the world. But I'm very excited to kind of explore that direction of these jeweled realms of becoming transparent for the light of source to come through and then eventually
mm,
dissolves into source.
And that's very much what we are. We
Mhm.
are, you could think of us as, before there was shape and form, it was kind of like salt water. And then over the eons and eons, it dries out. And then what you're left with is a matrix of facets that reflect the one light in various different ways. And it sparkles depending on how you look at it. And each one of us is that one little facet on that crystal that's on the heap of crystals that's in the whole,
hmm. And the
and
light shining through
and the
each
light's
one
all
of
the
our
same.
facets is
Yeah.
unique, but it's the same light
Yeah.
behind all of us.
And
Yes,
we all started
Right.
yes,
from the
absolutely.
same soup.
Hmm. That's a cool analogy.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah,
was
no,
on my Facebook page.
that's exactly
Go.
what I've been experiencing and trying to portray through these jeweled realms. Not as like a luxury or
Yeah.
just portraying luxurious things, but as a
Yeah.
symbol for becoming transparent for the light of source to shine through us.
Wow.
Well, that's
Wow.
the modal confusion, and the luxury is that pleasure is that having mode opposed to the being mode, which
Mm,
is the light and
mhm.
being the facet.
Yeah.
Because you may be seeing all these faceted creatures, but you're also part of that faceted menagerie.
Yes. Yeah. Because we can experience that kind of modal confusion to where we are orienting towards the world as though having everything is going to fulfill all of our needs and desires, sense for communion, oneness that I think we're all longing for deeply inside. And so that's where attachments come in, being attached to material realm pleasures, sensory gratification, trying to use these things to fulfill that deep void within ourselves when we fall out of tune with a sense of the sacred that is all around us.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy and appreciate how your art effortlessly evokes that sense of wonder and and it shines directly a sense of the sacred. So I'm going to see
Thank you
if I
so
can
much.
screen share here.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we're going to look.
and
I'm looking at a picture of your Buddha painting right now. Go ahead.
mm, um, I feel like perhaps the path of enlightenment is realizing that we are uh, that diamond that shines the infinite light, but we have perhaps along the way we picked up some defilements, some attachments, some desires that made the diamond covered with dirt. But ultimately, if we clean it out, we meditate, we go back, we realize that we've been that all along. It's really not an attaining something new, but realizing what we already are within.
Uh, Amen. That's it.
Well, what's cool is the process of getting that grime as well, like kind of like with quartz crystals, right? If they grow it in a very iron rich area, they'll start to get some pink to them. We call them
Mm-hmm.
rose quartz. So it's, um, the the thing that makes us unique, even though that we all are one, is like in crystal form, or it's the hues of the dirt and the environment that we're in. And then once we're washed clean, even the fractures that we have within ourselves can be beautiful as well. But you have to get the mud and the grime and all the crap off you, and it
Mm-hmm.
could be millennia of crap on top of you, from stuff that isn't even your own crap. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The
Mm-hmm.
inherited crap.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even lifetimes. Yeah, but ultimately, yes, we are all
Well,
Really?
unique facets.
mhm.
Yes. I'm gonna try and do a screen share here. Let's see how this works.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, it's not my fault.
Yep, yep, yep.
New technology.
There it is.
Hey,
Hey.
look at that.
All right, turn this on. Boom.
Bada bing, bada
All
boom.
right, cool. So it looks like it's working.
He has an excellent jawline, by the way.
He does though.
It's soft
Yeah.
yet broad.
He's got
Many words can come out, but
Yes.
none need to.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can see it well. It's in my screen it looks a little bright,
Uh,
like a
It
little
does look a little.
overexposed, but
It is
uh,
overexposed. Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure
but
why it's
uh
doing that.
but you guys can probably get the general idea, and hopefully if any of these pieces do touch any of the audience members, they can perhaps look at online better renditions of them. Hello, hello. Cannot hear you guys no more.
there you go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There.
I'm not sure
Welcome
why.
back.
Oh, because
Yeah.
I minimized us and it actually turned us off. My apologies.
Yeah,
So
look.
DJ was just talking about the pastel
Oh,
colors.
yeah. The pastel, colors opposed to, super bright and vibrant. There's something, warm and I don't know how to describe it, but that feeling you get when you have a nice, pleasant light that allows your eyes to relax.
Mhm.
And the people on YouTube, go check it out online. There will be a link in the description to check it out. But yeah, and simple form, but it goes deeper as it goes. Do you have any other ones pulled up? I know,
I
like
do. Yeah.
there was a very large, very impressive piece that had a lot in it that I didn't really get too much time to look at. Ooh, look at that! And playing a little game of
Mhm.
life down at the bottom.
Yeah, the infinite self and the game of existence. It's about uh, the infinite self, which is within all of us, playing out this cosmic game.
Wow. I love that.
And
Thank you.
the ingrained in multiple symbols, the yin yang, the gender in the form of, say, creation, like to engender the
Mhm.
universe, to create the universe, these to create even the differentiation between things. And
Yes.
it's not past me that the yin yang is over the genital region in the base as well, and that's where, as physical humans, we participate in that dual nature creative, like in this
Yes.
case, giving life and furthering the species. But the principle, as above so below, the nature uh, the nature of the universe also orients itself that way. There seems to be these two, what word would you use, not conflicting, but like um
Dualities.
yeah, two complementary forces that are
Mhm.
positionally opposed, but together help facilitate the creation of things, even if it is just like like the lines on a painting help create the shape for you to see the person, right? So there's a distinction between line and not line, and that helps create an image. So that I have some art that I did for a project album with a friend of mine that plays off of that as well. That dual parallel, like it starts out with it's a circular mandala, but it has the male and female. So like, what was that? Earth and Mars at the bottom, and then as you move up, what was the next one? But then it gets to a symbol for Saturn and a symbol for Om. So the breath that is everything, and then Saturn, I'm using that as the separation between things. So there's the everything and then the thing that separates it, and that reaction or that action between the two create everything that we are.
Yeah, that whole piece is about the infinite self being both aspects of the duality, but also non-dual. So the colors pink and blue are symbology for the masculine, feminine energies, the yin, the yang. So yes, that almost to initiate the cosmic game, first there had to be a split from 1 to 2, from the non-dual to the dual, for form to exist, for a perceiver and perceived to exist. So of course the infinite self is well aware of this and transcendent of it, but it is something that had to the initial split to be able to have the game, so that we could perceive another, to love another, to experience another, until we ultimately return back to the oneness. So yes, there is the female and male kind of symbology for that, with the yin yang, and the game we have on the table. We have space and times as the decks, and this is actually the piece that took me the longest to ever make. It took 3 years, and
Wow.
perhaps in this photograph, one cannot tell the size, but it's a very large large piece. It's 5.5 feet. Oh yes, I'm also included this image so people could get a sense of scale. But what I try to make it really big so that when someone stands in front of it, it encompasses the whole field of vision, and
Beautiful.
one can really experience that realm.
Yes. How cool.
So,
But ultimately, I would say the realm that does portray this the best is the formless realm. But instead, I did it through a bunch of form and what I perceive as one of the realms right before that, which is what a lot of people see as the DMT realm, where it's a lot of fractals and vast temples and kind of alien-like beings, and this was an experience I had with that plant medicine. But yes.
I love the different things that hands are holding here. We have the gift of all the different worlds, great spiritual traditions. We have what's looks like plant medicines or plants in general.
Yeah, plants, fungi, bacteria. We
Okay.
have
Oh, yeah, there's
humans and animals.
Yes.
We have like the cosmos. We have the
Yes, the
DMT molecule, which is
Yes.
within all beings. Interesting.
Yes.
And yes, we have
Interestingly enough,
the
it
world
is.
religions, with the center being love. So just spirituality in general kind of being born. So kind of different aspects of the cosmic game that we are in.
I love how you express that here.
So yeah, this has
Wow.
a lot of the, I guess it's the Gnostic creation story in it. First there was God, and then there was this character that is referred to as Satan, which is the separatory factor. So the one thing, then into the many things, then the sun, which gives life to the things. And first there was the plant life, and, chemical and plant life in that order, at the bottom order, and then the humans coming in to name the things, and the humans and the animals and the sky. It's interesting. I forget who the artist is, but he did a series of panels of the garden of the creation of the world, and then the Garden of Eden, and it had the pink fountain in it. I wish I was a better scholar, but it basically telling the same story, without
Yeah.
time, as a component, and using icons and symbols to point at something that's really hard to talk about and show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, various religions and spiritual belief systems have depicted something similar in various ways. From yes, like you expressed, or the splitting of Shiva and Shakti in Hinduism, or
Mhm.
various different ways of portraying source. Splitting into two and beginning samsara, beginning the cosmic game, or Leela, the game, in various ways. But this one's particularly inspired by my own personal experience, which I try to hold above everything else, direct experience. Even for other people that see my art, I try to inspire them to not believe anything else anybody tells them, but instead experience it themselves. And what these artworks are for, more for pointing towards remembering and experiencing that within. So yeah, and these have been through my various mystical experience I have seen from the light, the split of Shiva and Shakti, masculine, feminine, and then from there the other archetypes, and then grosser and grosser into more physical realms
Yeah.
until here.
Which is a really gross place to be.
Well, yeah,
In a
not gross and
stage.
like
Yeah, I know,
disgusting,
I
but
know.
gross as in
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, manure is pretty gross, but it really helps life grow. So sometimes, life does have to be gross.
Indeed, yes.
Well,
Part of
that's
playing the game, right?
well, yeah, and if we were just in a world of all things good and all things beautiful and light, I think we'd be terribly bored and we wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that they do say that the Deva realms, or heavenly realms, where that is the case, is by a lot of people believed not to be the best place for reaching awakening, because ultimately there's no motivation to seek really from suffering and to remember, being one with the ultimate. So we have, I feel like, a really good sweet spot here in this realm where we have enough calm and space to be able to practice meditation, practice purification, practice remembering, but also there's enough suffering, or sandpaper for the soul to remember, to practice, to want to be like, hey, no matter what I do, all these momentary pleasures ultimately lead to old age, sickness, and death. And there must be something greater, something where we exit this cycle of just, growing old, getting sick, and dying over and over again. And then one starts to seek the spiritual path where, one, eventually exits the game.
Mhm, mhm. Seeks to come back home,
Yes.
and
Or
it's like we're
remember
here to
home.
perfect the art. Yeah,
Yes.
remember home, yeah,
Remember
yeah,
home.
and it's like we
There's
get to
nowhere to go.
remember home. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, we're already here,
We're
and
here.
it's like we forget what we truly are
Mm.
to experience the world from these unique perspectives, and there's infinite perspectives to see from, to perfect the art of loving, which is what seems to be like the seed or the source of creation itself.
Mm.
So I found another piece of your art here so that we can bring up now. This one is really intriguing.
I so wish.
Shiva.
Oh,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you got
this
a
one's
lot of
six
symbolism at play
six
here
six
too.
feet. He's life size.
hey,
Wow. Yeah,
So
let's see the
if
comparison
you
there.
see him in person, you can actually, if you sit in front of him, in meditation position, he's about the size of a human. So it's like Shiva's there, which Shiva's a very interesting symbolism of, or archetype, because he often represents the masculine energy, but he also represents the space between the formless. So
Mm,
for some instances, it can be representing the formless realm. In some instances, he represents, part of the duality, or the initial duality, the almost the initial archetype of, the masculine, and then Shakti, the feminine, which I also did a piece of the feminine energy. And he also represents the destroyer, which in for a lot of Western peoples that may sound bad, but it's actually the destroyer of illusion. If we're in
Mhm.
this realm suffering and um, discontent, and we are liberated from that, he is said to facilitate the destruction of illusion, the destruction of suffering, to reach enlightenment. So yeah, it's one of
Wow.
my favorite pieces.
I
Just because
love it.
I have such a special place in my heart, Shiva. I chanted Om Namah Shivaya a good bit while creating this piece,
Did
and
you? Oh, you were
just sat
chanting
sat yes sat with
throughout.
the Shiva energy.
How
It's
cool.
one of my favorite, most beloved archetypes, even though, not good to hold too strong of preferences. Love
Mhm.
love should, shine like the sun towards everything,
Ah,
but he does hold a special place in my heart. I guess
very wise point. Yeah.
and everybody I see my beloved Shiva,
I love that.
he's
I was just
yeah,
listening
yeah.
to something today that was talking about seeing everybody as Jesus and treating everybody as you would Jesus
Mm-hmm.
Christ, and it's a similar metaphor. That's a
Yes, so
really powerful practice.
it's great to sometimes hold these particular avatars or archetypes, or symbols of beings such as Shiva, or yes, Jesus, or perhaps Buddha, or whatever we resonate with, as an opportunity to see the beloved in all beings, and then eventually transcend and lose let go of even that. So it's more of a vehicle,
Mm,
but yes, it is helpful.
Well, you need something to point.
Yes,
Without
exactly.
the pointing, we tend to get lost. And the saddest thing for me is, personally in life, is watching the lostness of us. We each in our own time have our ups and downs, but it seems collectively right now, globally, collectively as well, that there is a very lostness and a destruction of the feeling of home, domicide. So this lack of the feeling of home, and this real deep want to be found again and to
mhm.
belong and to remember again. But in the meantime, the symptoms of that are alarming and distressing. And it's best not to just, like, one of my pet peeves is, just focusing on the problem and everything sucks and all this stuff. But like, to a certain extent, you have to identify an issue, and then, okay, well, what can I do about it? What can we do about it? How can I help facilitate this movement forward? And also pay attention to what I'm doing enough so I'm not like pointing in the wrong direction and somebody's stumbling and, cosmically breaking their leg, if you will.
Mhm.
That's
I think our concern for the world is a beautiful and sweet thing, and we find that love is at the bottom of everything, and that ultimately it seems like there's only love and symptoms of the lack of love
well, fear.
in this entire universe
Fear
Yeah.
is
precisely that. Yeah.
very much.
The ironic, kind of funny part is, well, it's yes, very noble to try to save the world, but
Yeah.
at one point one reaches a destination where one realizes one is the world, and then it's like
Yeah.
it gets
Yeah.
really like a big cosmic joke, right? But
That's
not to,
why they
it
call it the
depends.
cosmic joke, because you actually
Yes,
laugh
yes.
about it. It really is funny
Yeah.
to yourself when you
Yes,
have to.
but
Yeah.
that is not to play down any current distress that people are suffering, and that
Yeah.
it's
No, it is
very
visual and it's a very real dream.
and real dream. But then also there is simultaneously a channel we can turn to where it's all perfection. So to live with that
Yes.
duality of it is all perfection, yes, but we got to help the people that are suffering, and hold it both
Yeah.
with equanimity and with love and with
Yeah.
balance.
Well
That
said.
is a heavy responsibility.
But it's so light. It is
Well,
something
Yes,
that's
or light.
beautifully light when you are
Mm.
looking at it
heavy
that
makes you
way.
heavy things. Carrying a heavy thing makes you strong. Now, if
Yeah,
you
it
carry too
depends
much, it
how you
might crush
carry
you.
it, right?
That's Yeah, right. Well, lift with the legs, not with the back, right? You know.
Well, when you realize it's all like yeah, right. Yeah, it's all beautiful illusion that we are in the midst of in order to perfect the art of loving and as we transcend our identification with the material realm and realize that we are spiritual beings at play in a physical body, the uh the weight of the world does indeed become lighter, and the edge of the offenses that we experience in the world and the edge of our suffering, it becomes less sharp. It seems it's
Yeah.
doesn't cut quite as deep. So there's
Yes.
a beautiful absolution there.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of thankfulness you can develop for the imbalance and the suffering as well.
Mm.
To make an analogy, it's the runner. Like somebody who's training to be a runner, it sucks.
It's
You're
grist for the mill,
constantly
though.
pushing
Yeah.
yourself to like puke, and it's hard. But once you get past that goal that you achieved and you really succeed, you are very thankful for pushing through that and thankful for the pain, which reminds you that you are alive and engaging.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Numbness is a terrible thing, and I think also that what's affecting a lot of us is just being numb
Mhm.
and almost afraid
Yes.
to feel.
Yeah.
So there is numbness, but there's also like equanimity, which I feel like is perhaps a more positive direction, where
Oh yeah.
we can observe it with love, but not let it affect us. It's kind of like
Mm.
for a different analogy, like we're sitting in a theater watching a movie, and perhaps at first we are in the screen, like acting out, and we feel all the emotions and all the sorrow and all the pleasure and the excitement and the ups and the downs very profoundly. But then as we progress in our spiritual practice and our meditation, we're sitting in the front row and we're still at the edge of our seats. And then the more we practice, we get a little one row back, and we're still observing it and we still feel love and we still feel, I hope that everybody in the movie ends up well, and then at the end, perhaps we're back in where, the projection room, and we see that it is indeed an illusion, and that ultimately it is but a screen, and that, everybody in the movie is an actor and will return home and as well,
Mhm. And
ultimately.
it is a
So,
profound, yeah,
yes, so the
very
more perhaps
powerful
we get
illusion that is
back,
like
yeah, yeah, the more we get back, the more we
yeah.
can watch it with equanimity, where we're maybe just slightly or progressively more and more less with the ups and the downs and more of a perpetual peace.
Yeah, I can. That's how I battle. Whatever you want to call it, the bipolar, the manic depressive, or whatever it is. It runs in my family, but it's a place you have to find that isn't either extreme. I try not to let myself get too, worked up because, well, they're, all things have, occupy a wave, and the bigger the wave gets, the harsher the transition and the deeper you go. And I think that's what the Stoics, or at least my interpretation of what the Stoics were really trying to get at is like to be able to observe, feel it, understand it, but then also not let it rule you.
Mm.
Because yet again, like what I was talking about earlier with ideologies, having, possessing one opposed to being possessed by one. Well, you're gonna have experiences and see things, watch this movie, but like if say you're watching this movie and like the character you like dies, you're not gonna let it ruin you for the next year and a half and be inconsolable. Maybe you
Hmm.
are, but that shouldn't be the goal. You should be able to step
Yeah.
back from it. Or like, farmers, you're gonna have to kill one of your animals, whether it's for eating or they got really hurt and there's nothing you could do about it. You can still love them,
Mm.
but still also go through with what you need to do.
So to apply Juliana's analogy to your analogy of the waves,
Mm,
then the increasing sizes of waves and the amount of the swing between, instead of picturing ourselves as the guy in the boat on the
mm.
waves that are going up and down, we are indeed the ocean.
Yeah,
And
Yes.
we're the ocean that sees the guy that's going up and down.
Yes.
you are.
Stepping
And
into that awareness that
Yeah.
observes everything instead of being the mind or the body feeling like, especially it's very helpful to practice if one's feeling very heavy emotions, instead of being like, I feel sad or I feel excited, instead being the mind feels excited, the mind feels sad. It's like taking that step back in the theater just by doing that. Or if the body's in
Mm,
intense pain, being like the body's in intense pain instead of I'm in intense
yeah,
pain. There's a huge difference
yeah.
in that way of thinking of it, of that vocabulary. And at first it might just be words, but the more we practice, perhaps we start to feel it and we start to take that front row seat or maybe second row seat, and we start to go back and back. And then eventually, even if one is dealing with an intense physical or mental pain, what can be like one can be like the mind is sad or the body's hurting, and one can giggle at it and be like, oh, there it goes, it does that often, and one it no
Yeah, yeah.
longer is controlling. And really for me, what has been very helpful with that is the Vipassana technique, and I highly encourage anybody who wants to really become proficient in doing that and being less engrossed into the mind or the body and be able to take a step back. Um, there's a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreats, which I highly recommend for anybody. It's 10 hours of meditation for 10 days in silence. Not the easiest thing to do in this life, but extremely rewarding and extremely helpful for learning how to meditate properly and to be able to take a step back and observe sensations, mental or physical, with equanimity, with peace, and then no longer let them control oneself.
Mm,
Mm,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
useful. Yeah,
yeah, very
well,
much so.
sitting and meditating for a while, you're going to start to feel, ooh, my bum. Oh, my back. Well,
Yes.
feedback.
Yes. And
The back,
that's the teacher.
the back
That's
that
the
I use.
teacher there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we
we
get
keep
real
returning to that ground of awareness.
yeah, being the awareness, not the mind that feels the pain, not the body, but stepping back and back into that awareness that is the observer that observes all with peace and equanimity, with no judgment.
Mm. It's really it's actually quite fascinating when one experiences because you start to see, oh my gosh, I can actually see my emotions, my thoughts, every sensation, physical, you know, all the senses of awareness as they arise in one's consciousness. And we gradually begin to realize that we are not our thoughts. We have thoughts. We are not even our
Mhm.
personalities or our cast images, the personages that we inhabit, that we can become so identified with. We are the awareness of the
Mhm.
personality. It's not I am a personality, I have a personality. And so who
Yes.
is the you that has the personality is that question. So that's a really nice pointer as well. The self inquiry directive
Mhm.
to turn awareness in upon itself. And
Yeah,
that's
like a
I've always
mirror,
loved that.
mirror with a
Yeah.
mirror.
Speaking of mirrors, like let's go back to this picture real fast because I wanted to ask you about this. Bing a bong, big a boom.
Oh,
See if it turns back on. It's
is
having
it going to work? There we go.
there it goes. Yeah, I was pressing it too fast. So this mirror right here, I friggin' love the way you did this. This is so cool. So
I have that
the fact
mirror in
that
a lot of my pieces.
it's the eyes of awareness of
Mhm.
that transcendental source that we all share. And I love how it's the effect of when you turn a camera onto a screen
Yes.
and it gives you that infinite regress of
Yeah, or a
screens,
mirror
that
to a
infinite
mirror, the
touch screens or a
infinity
mirror to a
mirror.
mirror.
Yeah,
Exactly. So the
when
infinity
we
mirror.
look when we have a clear view, like a mirror, holding a mirror up to who we really are, to our true reflection, with awareness, with the eyes representing awareness, we see we are the infinite. So yes, when we stop paying attention to the sense doors and the world of form, the things outside of ourselves, and we look within, we see the infinite, that we are the infinite. So it's
What
that infinity
crazy
mirror.
detail you put in these eyes where every single one of them is like rainbow colored. It's got all the
Yeah, and
colors,
if you
blue,
actually
green,
look
yellow, red.
close enough in person, each the reflection on each of the eyes is actually a little heart, because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
love
Oh,
shining through
nice.
it.
Nice touch.
Yeah.
Oh, how
Yeah, so
cool is that?
that is a reoccurring symbol you'll see in a lot of my pieces, and it's a symbol for realizing that we are the infinite. And I put it especially in a lot of my deity pieces, my
Mm,
various, representations of source that I portray to remind people that this isn't something to worship outside of ourselves, but a mirror for our infinite nature.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
if you
it's interesting that you mentioned that it's in a lot of or multiples of your uh pieces. So in my dreams, one of the avenues to move from one state to another is a mirror,
Mm,
or things that are mirrors, like water. But one,
Mhm.
and it was kind of a dream that was more like if like a painting, So it was less moving around something and more of just what it was, and it was a small little outdoor room, you know, just wide enough to get in and sit on this old, like the wrought iron chairs with one of them, like uh wrought iron cables, and then this gilded mirror, but everything was black and white. So, it was just this black and white. And I think that was the first time the mirror came up to me. And when I looked in the mirror, well, there was nothing there. There was no me, but there was like the feeling that there was something beyond that you can't see. And there, so instead of being a reflection or like looking into a room, it was more of like,
oh, see where this goes.
yeah, or I see that it goes somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Where it
mm,
goes, I don't know.
Oh, it's like seeing what's on the other end of the tunnel as you get close enough.
Yeah, or kind of trying to look through a fog,
Mm.
mm,
something like that. Yeah, like
Oh,
there's beyond the fog,
so it's
but you're
kind of
not entirely
murky.
sure.
Okay.
mm,
Um,
Wow.
and this I guess these portals are within my inner dwelling dreams. So like you can go out and experience the world in your dreams, but then you can go into the labyrinth of your mind, kind of thing. Rooms and
Mm.
buildings and old dusty places you haven't been in for a long time, and
Mm.
places that scare the crap out of you, or places that bring you a lot of comfort. But
Mm.
there's always ways of getting out and moving past that. And mirrors are always one for me. And actually, the
mm,
little critters that assist in moving through into other places have very large eyes that in and of themselves are mirrors. It's just interesting seeing it
Whoa.
up there, and you mentioned it's a thing because there is something to it. Whether it's just a coincidence of symbology and how our brains um, use symbols to communicate to our own brains and other people's brains, or if there's something deeper into the what a mirror does.
Oh,
mm,
right. Gosh.
Well,
mm.
Probably both and
mirrors were
because it
very
always
cherished
Yes.
seems to
things.
be, right? It's always a
Yeah,
paradox like
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's one of those unmistakable realizations you have when you're experiencing a plant medicine like DMT is that everything is interrelated and everything is like hyper real in an inexplicable way.
Mm, mhm.
Hyper real and part of the play all at once.
There's one of them little
So we
crystal
gotta,
things, crystal butterfly. Yeah.
yeah, there's like a cosmic butterfly here.
You're not showing it, by the way.
Oh, I'm not showing the picture. Let me go back here. Let's
There
bring this back up again.
we go. There's the
Boom, we're
cosmic
back.
butterfly.
Cosmic
And sorry for
butterfly.
the people
Yeah,
at home.
so
Yeah.
the butterfly is also a recurring symbol in a lot of my pieces. I use a lot of similar symbols, like almost like a lot of these pieces are shown as images from the same place in a
Mm,
way, like they're all
yeah.
in the same world. So the butterfly, the holographic, like geometric butterfly is my symbol for
Oops.
karma, for the butterfly effect, where everything we do has a
Ah,
ripple effect on all of existence, right?
yes. How cool. So what do the stairs mean to you back here?
It's a suggestion that there is more to this realm than can be seen. So
Mm,
I include a lot of the stairs and the deity pieces because they're all in their own temple. And this is inspired from my DMT journeys. When when I work with DMT, a lot of the times I will see the Hindu deities, which is why I did this Hindu
mhm,
deity series, is because I started to see from pure light um, Shiva and Shakti be formed, the initial dualities, and then from there the other archetypes such as Ganesha and Hanuman and all these kind of ancient archetypes. Which I wasn't. I was at the time when this started happening. I was mostly practicing the Buddhist teachings, but I started seeing all these Hindu deities in my DMT trips. So I felt inspired to create these artworks, and I would go to their temples. In the DMT trips, they all had like their own, like almost like room temple. And I could go visit them and yeah, talk to them and everything. And so the stairs are kind of like a suggestions that there's more, because I would, go to Ganesha's temple, and I would go to Shiva's temple, and be able to explore these spaces where it was like these vastly intricate, constantly moving,
Mm.
fractally temples of light. Like almost everything in this realm was made out of light. It was glowing, and
Mm.
at some point, of course, it would all dissolve into pure light. But very
Mm.
fractally, very colorful. If anybody has experienced DMT, I'm sure they can relate to some degree. But
Absolutely, and this is like
there
just a
seems
freeze frame of that experience, basically, because it is
yeah, it's a
animated,
freeze frame.
alive.
Yes, because it's very animated. Actually, it's like almost light speed. It's constantly changing. So
Mm.
it's very hard to kind of depict in a single still image. Um, but there seems to be a lot of beings in this realm, in the spirit DMT realm.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I seem to have stumbled upon the Hindu deities and had wonderful experiences with them as, wonderful archetypes of the universe. Um, and I have heard many other
Really?
people experiencing them through DMT, but sometimes people go to other places. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
spots to explore in that space.
I wonder how much of it has to do with our cultural upbringing and things that we're interested in, because some people get the, machine elves, some people get aliens, some people get, um, Christian imagery or, of
Mhm.
course, Hindu deities. Now, did the Hindu deities start showing themselves to you prior to your study of Hinduism, or was that after? Because I feel like God is just speaking to us in whatever way that we're best going to be able to comprehend and actually relate, you know?
They just I I've always had an interest in Hinduism since a young age, and
Yeah.
Buddhism, but wasn't expecting to particularly see them, especially so repeatedly
Right,
in the
right. Well,
DMT realms.
there seems to be a realness to these entities that we meet in these realms, and I mean, like, the realer than realness, in fact,
Yes,
and,
indeed.
much greater than me, thing that is in front of me here. But of course, this is that stage before the transcendent realm to where it's just pure oneness, pure blissful awareness. So there's still that sense of duality enough
Yes,
to be able to see and experience other entities
yes,
on higher planes.
hardly, where it's like
Yeah.
barely dual. It's enough for there to be a perceiver and perceived, but everybody kind of remembers that. At least in my own experiences, everybody kind of
Right.
remembers that
Mm.
it's illusory.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
even in that realm, I have asked. So I want to go to the realm of pure consciousness, because sometimes I kind of end up there, and I want to go to the higher realm. And they have laughed at me and been like, what do you think this is all made out of? It's all made out of the light, you know?
Nice. You're like, "You're there.
Yeah,
You're just
you're
not seeing it right
basically
now."
there.
I like how the stairs look like they actually are twirling around each other like a DNA double helix, like they're headed back towards each
Mhm.
other and they're gonna be in a spiral.
Well, they also draw this. They give a curiosity. They don't directly show them going up towards something or
Yeah.
terminating at a place. It's curious. It's like you want to find it, and
Yeah, what happens?
it
Where does
Yes,
does
that go?
remind me
yes,
of a few of my DMT trips where I call it like tunnel phase, right? You're going through the tunnel and the tunnel makes a turn, and then you have the wonder what's beyond it, and then it all goes whoosh and opens right up,
yes,
and it starts out with that question that what's right beyond it, and what's right beyond it, and you kind of and on the purely artistic level, it's a great choice because it draws the eye and it makes the viewer even more curious and want to look even deeper into the painting itself.
Mhm.
yes, it's kinda like a
So
little suggestion that there's more, and to kinda
mhm.
imagine. It almost leaves room for the viewer to imagine what's beyond. What's on the
And
next
is it
floor. Right?
Yeah, and is it a place that you're going, or is it a place that you came from, and then you turn back around and look, and
Mm.
you're like, "Oh, hello."
Hmm.
You know,
I like how he's got a little drum here. What does the drum symbolize for you?
The drum is often depicted with Shiva as, I like to see it as almost like he plays the music that is the heartbeat of existence,
Mm,
like the drum
mm.
beat that is the beat that this game is in, and he's also the one that stops playing it, and it all, kind of gets destroyed. So
Neat. And tell us about his tiger.
yes, so Shiva very often is depicted wearing tiger skin or sitting on tiger skin. So either his clothes or being on top of tiger skin. And it's usually historically a symbol for him conquering the fiercest forms of nature.
Mm,
Like the mind, like the physical realm, like conquering it through,
mm.
so he wears it. It's a symbolic for that. And when I was about to create this piece, I got this message, this like vision message, where it was like, let him conquer it through love, through friendship, not through killing. And I got this message of having him be conquered as a friend, as through love. So beside him, not as a killed corpse. Yeah, companion. So he conquered the fiercest form of nature through friendship, through love. So that is why he is
It's like
beside
he
him. And
tamed.
yes, and I was
Mm.
initially going to paint orange tiger, the traditional orange tiger. I had all my reference photos ready. I was getting ready to do it the next day, and I went to sleep because I thought, oh, the orange one will go with all the background. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the orange tiger next to him. But then that night I went to sleep, and in my dream, I was in this dark, dark jungle, and this tiger, this white tiger, comes to me, and it has six glowing purple eyes. And it comes right up to my face, like so close. I can almost feel its breathing, like head
Wow.
to head with me. And then it walks away and it goes back into the night. And that morning I was like, okay, I guess it has to be like that. It's a white tiger. It has six purple glowing
Wow.
eyes. It was very specific. I scrapped all my orange tiger images that I had for references, and
Oh,
I
so
created
cool.
this one. It
Neat.
wanted to be depicted in this way.
Yeah.
it also makes it a lot easier to see as well, because I could imagine if it was orange, it would be doing its
Yes.
thing and disappearing into the background.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, perhaps it wanted to stand out a little more.
Oh,
Yeah.
the spiritual part of the mind and the pragmatic part of the mind in communication, to
Yes.
create the art.
And later on, I looked it up what white tigers represent, and they usually represent protectors of the Dharma, conservers of the
Wow.
Dharma, and the Dharma being truth, being the universal truth. So,
How
uh,
perfect.
yeah,
A perfect
maybe.
companion, I guess, for
Hmm.
Truly
for the destroyer of lies
an illusion.
and
Yeah.
illusion.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. There's so much that you can see in the tiger's friendliness, companionship with Shiva here. Like
Hmm.
he's conquered his inner animal or beast nature
That's a
Hmm.
component of it
as
as well.
well, you know.
That
Yeah.
self-conquering of the beast that we
Yes,
we have come from and can return to if we're not
yes,
careful, or if we need
yes.
to.
And now it's a great protector.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like
the
when we
animal
incorporate our
nature. Yeah.
shadow. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, how cool. Okay, so what does this woman represent here on top of his
She's just
head
Yeah.
trying to stay warm.
and
No.
his hair? Yeah.
So,
Cozy.
so so historically, the symbol of him having this woman in his hair is actually representing the Ganges River, and
Ah.
above it you can see the water and going into his head. So what that represents
Oh.
is taking the formless, like almost like the ocean of formless source, and through Shiva
Ooh.
it's being created to the universe. So it's like there's
To
this kind of
manifest reality.
mythology of Shiva taking the formless source and creating it into the Ganges, into the world of form. So it's that symbol of from formless to form through God's, consciousness.
Mhm. And his creative love.
hmm
Wow. And okay, and so what does the chain around here represent with the little moon on it?
So the chain on his head is actually more decorative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Got to keep all that luxurious hair up to keep that little Ganges
Yeah,
River lady
that's what it
warm.
is. Hey,
Well, okay, the chain gives shape to the hair, the flowing hair. There you go.
that it does.
Let's do the snooty snooty art people, that go, yeah, you see this.
Meh,
If
meh.
if you wanna zoom into, his necklace, his mala right here, there's a
Yeah.
little symbol in there that, I'm particularly fond of. At the bottom, there's like a little,
Oh, right there.
like
Oh,
amulet.
there it is,
A
there it
little
is.
further down by his belly. Yes, yes, right there. And that is, actually, the 5-MeO molecule.
Okay, I thought that
And,
might be the spirit molecule.
yes, so it's not the spirit molecule, it's the God molecule, the
Oh, you're
5-MeO,
right. Yes,
not
yeah,
not
5-MeO.
and then so actually in a lot of my pieces, the NN molecule can be found. It's even in this piece, but you have to spot it. But, for
Yeah,
Shiva,
I
I felt called to, include the God molecule, which is usually takes one to the formless realm. And this is not to be disrespectful to any of the Hindu cultures portraying substance, because the 5-MeO molecule is found within us. So it is said
Yes,
potentially to be the cause of very mystical experiences. So in deep
that
meditation,
would explain
perhaps
a
the
lot.
5-MeO molecule gets released. So it's something that's within ourselves, nothing
Yes.
exterior. And if anybody has experienced the 5-MeO, either through deep meditation or through taking it from the external, they know that it is a beautiful experience of the formless of source, which is goes hand in hand with the depiction of Shiva.
Hmm.
I think perhaps that where most people come in contact with it is on the cusp in and out of REM sleep, and that's where
Yes.
that's where the lucid dream thing happen. That realm happens is within that cusping of REM sleep, because at least from what I know of the science, in REM sleep you don't have any experience, but it's on the outside edges of REM sleep where you have that blast that wakes you up again, if you will, like wakes you up
Mm.
within your dream. Like the opening of the eyes, or the way I can describe it is kind of like in the dream state, it's like surfacing out of water into the air, and you can feel the meniscus of the water, and you pass through it, and you can feel the pressure of it, but it's almost not there at the same time. That's like that cusp. It's really
Mm.
bad at describing it, but
No, that was good. That made sense.
yeah. So it's because in REM sleep you're not dreaming, and then if you're too far from it, you're having your day-to-day scatter
Yeah, it's that
dreams.
strange in between place where
Yeah,
you're mutually dreaming and you're mutually getting into your
yeah.
wakeful awareness as
And
well.
that's where naps, particularly morning naps, and you mentioned this in the
Mm-hmm.
last time he interviewed you.
Mm.
The early morning naps, like getting up but not allowing yourself to wake up too much, and then putting yourself back down to sleep. And I used to do this over and over.
Yes.
Like when it was summer and I wasn't going to school, it was sleep time. Send yourself back
Mm.
down over and over and over again. You can get to the point where you can actually feel that transition from wakefulness into the not quite a sleep phase, into the asleep phase, and then into the waking again, but not actually waking up phase.
Mm.
And recently, what I've been doing is, imagery work as I go to sleep, like whether it's recalling a path that I've been on or not been on, or running a little narrative through my head, or I'm very mechanically driven. So like something I'm thinking about building, running that through my head and doing that, and allowing or having that thing to help me get down through the stages but retain some type of consciousness as I go through the stages.
Interesting.
And you can really feel the difference as you go. It's almost intoxicating at some points where you may feel a little drunk, That's the only
Mm.
way I can describe either that or stroking out. But like, you go through to the point where you
A
can
little
feel,
woozy.
well, you can feel your body, you
Oh,
lose
the sleepiness
connection with,
overcome.
you can lose the connection with your body. So your body doesn't function anymore like it normally does when you're awake.
Yeah.
That going to sleep where the body separates, and if you keep going, you can actually feel yourself go all the way down. And it's rare for me, but you can go all the way down and through with
Mm.
that.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of practices one can pick up. I've developed mine for myself because I'm kind of a contrarian, and what standard doesn't really work for me. I'm a
Let's
little too
talk about
honorary.
that real fast while we're on the subject. So I remember in the last episode, you shared ways to help uh, bring about lucid experiences and dreams. And one of them, I remember you saying, is try to push your finger through your hand in just normal wakeful state and seriously try and do it. And
Reality
then
checks, yes.
reality checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other tech? So I remember you also said, if you normally wake up, say at 8 o'clock in the morning, wake yourself up at 6, stay up for about 15 minutes, but don't turn on any bright lights, and don't go running around the house or anything. Kind of stay in a chill state, and then go back to sleep 15 minutes later, and then you can really help elucidate those,
Hmm.
bring about this dream experience or the lucid dream experiences. So, what are some other tips beyond those that you might have for us?
Yeah, of course, keeping a dream journal just to become conscious of, bring more awareness into the dream realm. So
Hmm.
it's not just, a bunch of stuff we forget. So that's helpful. Yeah, the waking back to sleep, like you mentioned, reality checks. Like, for example, I just like to tap my palm just to see if anything funky happens, and basically questioning if you're dreaming throughout the day. Then
Yeah.
that's going to carry
Mm.
on into the dream world. But one of the actually easiest methods I have found since is hypnosis. So there's lucid dream hypnosis that we can listen to on YouTube, and if someone is hypnotizable, which a certain percentage of the population aren't,
Mhm.
um, but if the majority are, then it's a direct ticket into lucid dreaming. No need to do any of the other funky stuff. One can just put on
Mm.
the YouTube
Lucky.
audio, lay down in a dark, quiet place, ideally with eye covers on one's back, and go in. Especially, I have found that what intensifies it is a very, very small microdose of mushrooms, about like
Hmm.
point 3 and lemon
Okay.
tech with, lemon and tea, waiting an hour and then doing the lucid dream
Mm.
hypnosis, it becomes very HD. I can do it perfectly fine without it, and a lot of people can, but I would say it kind of makes it more vivid, more HD is the best way to put it. And it helps a lot, but too much mushrooms or too much really any psychedelic, doing this with any sort of psychedelic, I've also done it with DMT, or a little
Mhm.
LSD, but too much of a psychedelic, then it takes over, and then one's just tripping, and just one is in
Yeah.
all the
Right. Right.
And then
fractals
that's
and
something
stuff.
else.
Yeah, that's something else. And with no psychedelic, depending on one's practice and one's ability to lucid dream, it can still be either very vivid, or sometimes, if one's tired and hasn't been lucid dreaming as much, it can be a little dull, a little like kind of
Mhm.
blurry, or
Yeah.
you don't feel all the sense doors quite as intense, but just that little small little bit of mushrooms just seem, or psychedelics or plant medicine, just seem to make things just vivid and feel fully the sense doors, the touch, the
And-
hearing, everything.
Yeah.
But I do want to caution people that it can be very, very intense. Like, I know the first
Mm.
time that I did hypnosis, a friend sent it to me, and they're like, "Oh, here's this past life hypnosis." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. It's gonna be like a vague little dream with images," which I should have known better, especially being a visionary artist that works a lot with seeing things and lucid dreaming and stuff. And it was instead of full like being in someone else's body, like full recollection, full experience of another life. I've had certain dreams where it's like living out a certain timeline all the way until death, and when I die as an old lady, I
Yeah.
wake back up. Or like,
Wow.
things like that. So I just want to caution people with hypnosis. It can be a very powerful thing, to play with. So to use it wisely, and to be mentally prepared. If one isn't mentally prepared to integrate potentially hundreds of years worth of experiences or another lifetime, or all this additional phenomenon, then maybe not do it. But if one is ready to digest it and doesn't hold on to it with too much attachment, just perceives it, learns from it, lets it go, keeps not holding on to anything in one's heart, then it can be very beneficial.
I know DJ's told me some experiences like what you just
Oh
described.
yeah, no. Between the ages of like 13 and 16, every night I went to sleep, I was one of three people living their life, fully intact memories and um, all the traumas and happiness and all of that, and it changes you and ages you real quick.
Mm.
And like, I'll tell a story of one of the dreams of one of the days in the life of one of the people that kind of broke me to a certain extent. Speaking of the dangers of going into things, but so this guy, he's a soldier. He's been in active combat many times, got released. The country or place that he was in was dealing with a lot of, low scale warfare. And so him and his buddy were checking out the subfloor of a building that was, broken through. So it was a building on a canal, and the floor on the subfloor was broken through where you could see the water coming through, and there was the poor and the destitute down there, and there's this, little girl, just crying and wailing, holding on to this, pile of rags, which is this little old woman. And, the guy I was with, he goes up and he's just like, yelling at this old lady pile of rags, shut this kid up, shut this kid up. And well, the lady was dead and the kid had no one. And that broke me. That was not one of the good, happy times. But it's important to feel that though, because I'd rather not do that in my real life, have to have that experience of because it's my buddy being calloused and awful, and the guy that I was living as one of these three characters in these dreams, he's already lost a lot of people in the war that he had to fight anyway, and now he comes home to his own people, and then the child, the most innocent thing, having to deal with the most horrible thing. It's that child's only source of security is now completely gone. And as a kid, I could relate to that as well. My upbringing wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the worst, but a lot of feelings of being lost and abandonment and all that stuff. So it resonated really deeply. But then, there's other experiences that were absolutely beautiful and wonderful and, kind of fun in some cases. But you got to be careful when you are going that deep. And if you are the type of person who, whether this person was real or not, will experience somebody else's life, you do have to be a few rows back and learn how to be a few rows back.
Yes,
and that's still talking
exactly.
about that. Like I'm shaking right now, just remembering it, but it, did teach me a little bit about compassion. And then in this person's story arc, that's when he started waking up and basically saying, screw the man, like ain't going to do it no more. Also founding years of me being ornery. So it helped with that. Maybe I'm a little too ornery sometimes, but I think being ornery has saved me from a lot of suffering that I could have gone through or subjected other people to, if I would have to, go along with, what's popular in the now or, all that stuff. But yeah, I do believe that
being willing to stand on your own and not follow the pack necessarily for guidance or direction.
Well, I've already gone through the pain.
Yeah.
And I've died many times in my dreams. And just so people know, if you die in your dreams, it doesn't mean you die in real life. I've died so many times. It's like, it's to the point now where it's like, well, I guess I'm dead. Well, time to wake up. That was interesting. Actually, where I learned the true feeling of compassion, but without any strings attached, was a dream I had where I was walking through a back alley and some young, poor, hungry kid pulls out a gun, wants to get my wallet, and accidentally shoots me right here. And it felt like a sledgehammer the size of a bullet hitting me. Like, felt the whole thing. And as I'm bleeding out, I'm looking at this kid and I just felt so horrible for him. But then I felt this overwhelming feeling of love and compassion for this kid and hope that this kid is going to be all right. And then I blacked out, I whited out, woke up to a beautiful day, and it was one of the best days of my life. afterwards. It was
Wow.
like, man, dude. So, there's the good and the bad.
Yeah, there's the full spectrum in this existence. The cosmic game has really made us be on the edge of our seats. It's its nature to go from feelings of deep darkness to extreme bliss. Just to
Yeah.
have a nice wide spectrum, it has done an excellent job at this artwork of,
It really
this
has.
was a movie being a very emotionally compelling. But when experiencing things like, yes, like lucid dreaming or intense hypnosis, one can more easily explore the spectrum of, from very dark to very light. So
Mm,
one should have a very good established spiritual practice, ideally a meditation practice, to, yes,
mm,
be able to be a row back, to be able to observe this with equanimity without getting too emotionally involved, and instead to be able to learn from it instead of carrying it in our hearts. We if we
sure.
experience, for example, what you said, instead of holding on to it and carrying it in our hearts and becoming heavier, instead having it, learning from it and then letting it go, and being like, okay, like compassion, even if someone does wrong for me, compassion. Or no matter what we do in the world of form, there's sickness, old age, and death. And like that child with the grandmother, it is ultimately this existence
Mhm.
is ultimately suffering. So it should inspire me to seek liberation, to inspire me to seek returning home to source, to remembering source. So we can use it on our spiritual path for benefit. But if we just use it and we hold on to it in our hearts and it just makes us heavier and bitter, then that's just digging us deeper into the cosmic game, right? Not making us
Really.
lighter and return home, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yes,
amen to that.
doing these techniques with good spiritual practice.
Yep. And a good community of people that
Yes.
you can talk with, and you can who have had similar enough experiences that they can kind of understand as well as another person can what you're going through, to be able to communicate with you and help you as well as be helped by you, you know. And whether that's a direct community and direct people like face to face, or like what we're doing here, or even online,
Mhm.
what do you call them,
Discord
chat, yeah,
community
yeah,
or what have you.
stuff like
Yeah.
that, where you can get together with
Yeah.
people and discuss.
Yeah.
A
It's
spiritual sangha, especially like a community that we admire, people that we admire spiritually. Like
Mm,
that's why
mm,
having spiritual teachers, or just going to some sort of place where there's a spiritual community, may that be, some various temple or church or something, where we can be with people that are all there to improve on the path, to become more compassionate, and especially ones that we feel are closer, so that they inspire us to move closer, is very beneficial.
mm,
mm. Yes.
yeah, and more than beneficial, I think it is a necessity, that um, currently as a species we've kind of neglected. We've go a few hundred years back, or maybe even further. We destroyed temples, or not temples and monasteries and places to learn this, and then we excluded it from our daily life, and we separated the spiritual from the daily life.
More and more and more. Yeah,
And
we created the secular world. We also killed off the medicine men and the medicine women.
and, yeah, and so it's almost like, if we're the inheritors of this round in the game, it behooves us to start to recover what was lost before. Like,
Mhm.
being the crap that may not be your own crap, but intergenerational crap, to make this crystal that grows. Some of that crap, we got to deal with, and we got to rebuild. A lot. I really feel like we really do need to rebuild our spiritual communities.
Absolutely, I
Eh,
Yes,
agree.
and there is another side to this coin as well, where we are fortunate in a way where right now all of us can grab our phone, or
oh
just not
yeah,
all of us,
yeah.
and Google a temple or a monastery or a church or whatever we
Mhm.
align with, and drive our car, even if it's 50 minutes, an hour, which could have taken us day to walk to, and go
Yeah.
and talk to people that are aligned with our beliefs, with our not beliefs, but with what we're trying to achieve. when perhaps before we weren't able to go very far. We'd have to go on pilgrimage for,
Yeah.
possibly days to reach a spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
And we maybe only had as a accessible one place where maybe we went and we didn't align with, they weren't in alignment with what our path was. And we had no other choice than to agree, because that was the only thing available. Now, I can look up and there's like, hundreds of options all over the place that I can drive to, and maybe I can even go to a few and see if I like them, and if it aligns with what I'm trying to pursue, and if not, there's many other options. So
Yeah.
we are very fortunate, and even online we can look up and find these communities without even having to leave our home. So
Yeah.
um, it's also, a great time for finding
It really is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
spirituality.
It's the best and the worst of times at once. It's a really exciting time to be alive. It feels very much that we're at kind of a juncture, one of the climaxes of this human story here, where we're at a point where we're all now in contact. The whole global, globally interconnected species is able to send media around to each other in high definition, and it's in milliseconds. It's incredible, and we all have access to all the world's accumulated knowledge and wisdom now at our fingertips, and we can get in touch with other people that are seekers as well, and with teachers of various different spiritual backgrounds quite
Yeah.
easily. Like you were saying, it's it used to we used to have to go on a sojourn or a journey for a long time to be
And,
able to
And
find
find one
somebody.
one
Yeah,
temple or one church,
one
and that
temple.
was the only
Yeah,
option. And perhaps they
yeah,
well,
were
and one
grumpy
wise
and
guy
didn't
that
align.
that may or may not be so wise. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
a third face to this coin. I know coins only have two faces, but a third side to this coin as well is
The dice, maybe.
Yeah, we just turned to a 1D3.
yeah, right. Hey,
3D.
add in another dimension. Is also it's like it. So okay, I'm gonna preface it with this: is the technology that we have that helps us is neither good nor evil. That being said, so this third side to it, even though we have the access, like I can find a church, and it can tell me exactly how to get there, where to park, and do all that stuff. But then there's just so many options, and it's something I call analysis paralysis. There's
Hmm.
just so many options. Sometimes you can get stuck and just go a bit of
Choice exhaustion. Yeah.
and then sometimes you can also be drawn down into I don't want to use the word rabbit hole because that has a bunch of connotations attached to it, but you can end up wasting a lot of time going into one area because it's just like, ooh, interesting, shiny, ooh, and then you catch yourself and you're like, crap, hold on, reel myself back in. All right,
Look
okay,
for
let's
what
how
is.
do I use
Yes.
this tool better,
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, and
Yeah, yeah.
let's go deeper. Let's add one more facet to this dice. Let's go 40 and realize that also there is the truth, multiple levels of truth where all that
Oh yeah,
information that we seek and the teacher we are looking for is right within ourselves, and
within
we don't even
ourselves,
have
and
to
that's
go
what a
anywhere.
great
We
teacher
can
will
just sit
do. Is
there and
yeah,
yeah, just find all that wisdom. It's not found externally through the sense doors ultimately. It can be pointed to, but ultimately if we just sit at home and meditate and go deep enough, we'll find all those answers ourselves. So,
the guru is
many
within.
and the spiritual community within, they all exist within,
Yeah, yeah, and
it
that's how
all
you can tell a good teacher is if they will actually tell you to look within.
well,
And
Yes.
he's not going to give you any clear cut answers. He's going to make you explore your own self and find out.
Yes,
it's,
through direct experience,
Yeah.
experiencing oneself directly, internally. Yes.
it's funny. Sometimes one has to travel for a very long time and over many many miles to just find what was already in them that they were carrying around for many many miles for a very very long time.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
Like think about
Yes.
all the great teacher stories and stuff like that. You got to climb to this top of this mountain to go talk to this yogi up there, and he basically just points at you and just like, okay, yeah, in there, and you're like, oh, you look behind you, it's like, no,
The
in there.
treasures in here.
And you're like, but I came all this way.
Sources
It's
in
like,
here.
yeah, well,
Yes.
did you have a good
Yes.
time?
Yes. Did you enjoy the journey?
Yeah,
Yes.
right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
The
more
inside
cosmic
cosmic
jokes.
joke. Yeah, right.
yeah, right.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's look at one last piece of your art here. And this one you told me was a work in progress. So here we go. Boom. This is really cool to me. I like this one a lot.
Thank
I
you. This one's an oil painting. It was started as acrylic, then oil on top.
Okay.
And it is, I was debating it, calling it God is an artist, but now I'm thinking of calling it creator, just simply creator.
Mhm.
And as you have seen in many of my pieces, I portray source, God, the infinite self, in various ways, from a purple multi-faced deity to Shiva to all sorts of other versions. But I felt deeply inspired by Michelangelo and some of the
Mm,
Renaissance artists, and a little bit of my roots since I was initially raised Catholic, but
mm,
from a young age kind of veered away in adversion, but now have found a new found acceptance and
mm,
seeing the wisdom within it.
yeah.
And I wanted to have an opportunity to honor how the Renaissance masters, especially Michelangelo, portrayed source in the very typical guy with a white beard. Not
the
saying that
bearded man
that's
in the sky.
actually the bearded man, not saying that that's actually what it looks like, but one of the many ways of portraying that which is unportrayable, the infinite. But
Yeah.
here it's a very, classic, classic,
Yeah.
the version I thought I was never gonna do. Because I
Well,
was
The
like,
old wise man archetype.
why
Yeah.
do I have so much aversion towards it? Let me actually honor and see the beauty in it. And
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
wanted
Because
to
it's
add
another way
the
for God to depict himself in a way that we can
yes,
comprehend.
yes,
So the
well,
old wise man,
yes,
we all know.
and adding a visionary, new, modern approach to it, something that
Mm,
perhaps the Renaissance masters couldn't do, which is this bearded white man representing God here, painting the cosmos. And this piece is
mm,
about how this whole existence we're living in is really a beautiful masterpiece, an artwork, a drama or a beautiful painting, but it's also a hint that when we create, may that be a song, a painting,
yes. Yeah.
a child, an idea, we
mm.
are aligning ourselves with that stream of creation, because this is if there's anything for sure is that Source loves to create, right? It's created
Yes.
so many realms, so much infinite. It is artsy, it is creative. And when we are doing that, when we ourselves, as a microcosm, within this macrocosm, create, we are in that same stream. We are letting cosmic creativity flow through us, which is what it loves to do. So here it's
Wow.
like when, for me, in my particular case, it's a lot of making arts and painting. So here God is painting and it is in tune with that God energy, with that God consciousness.
Well,
So yes.
that's what I think. Like, so in the
Mm,
Bible, when it says we are created or crafted in His image, it's not
Mhm.
as guys with beards and pointy fingers. It's as creators in and of ourselves.
yes.
Yes,
Um,
yes, I love that. Well
and
said.
I
And
think this depicts it very well. Is that now humans, we're going to humanize things to understand it. That's just
mhm.
Yep.
how our brain works. But that whole creating his image isn't as fleshy humans. It's as the ability to create, and we're unique as humans where we can take a dream in our head, and like a dream of a beautiful glass and metal building, put it on paper, communicate with lots of people, and make this dream happen. We can do it in many
Yes.
ways, through procreation, through playwriting, through
Mm,
music, through art. We can take what's within and then make something out of it and to create. And I think that's when in the Bible, when they're talking about made in His image, it's not the white guy with the beard. Even though, like, I like how this plays though, because it's like, okay, there's that image, but then he's creating, he's the artist, he's sitting
Yes.
there,
yes.
maybe he
Yes, with
started with
little
acrylic and then switched to
planets.
oil.
Planets and
Yeah.
bags of stars around
Yeah.
him, like as his, art supplies. And but yes, this image isn't meant to be literal. I don't
Of
Yes.
course.
necessarily
Yeah.
think that God is painting,
Well, no, but
everything as a
Right.
white man with a beard, but
I
it's
love
more of
what you did here,
symbolic.
though.
But it's
It
also
looks
that,
like
in some
yeah.
dimension, it's probably that also,
It is that
right?
also, though. Yeah, it's that at the same time. That's
Yes,
the paradox, is that it's
that is
always
the
both and.
paradox.
well, and we
Yeah.
are in co-creation with God, the source, as well. So, throughout history and time, we have created many images of God. many ideas, and many a times we've boxed God in to our great folly, box it into the shape. But it's also useful for us to, in order to understand something that's so fathomably beyond understanding, we have to, condense it down into something that's familiar. The artist,
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and some
the
symbols,
father,
right? Had to
yeah.
put it in symbols
Mhm.
for the necessity of it being on a canvas. But yes, this piece is still in the works. It's not done. It's close to being done, and this is probably actually the most finished version that has been shared online to this point. So
Oh,
I
congrats to
really
cool.
like
anybody
the
watching. They're getting the latest. I think the last time I showed it was it's still the underpainting where it's all like brown tones. So I
Okay.
don't think I have shared many of maybe a little bit of only of the color. So super
I,
sneak peek.
I really like the light that is, hinted at emanating from the painting
I
itself
was
and lighting his face.
about to
'Cause
mention
that's where
Yes,
the
that.
light
Yeah.
yes,
source is
like the
coming from, the
painting is
painting
like
itself. Yeah.
yes, he's
Okay,
painting with
that's so
light.
cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yes.
so cool that you did that. You can see that.
Hmm.
I love that. Really nice touch
Yeah,
there.
cool. And
Thank
also
you. Still
the
gotta fluff the beard and I'm painting a little paintbrush and it's still a few things that need to
Oh,
be
yeah.
further rendered,
Yeah.
but yeah, so far I'm happy with how it's coming out.
I like it. And as from like an art, like a study piece to study it, I like the simple forms. You got your cylinders and your circles, and then even that little pouch is your cone, and you get to play with light on these different shapes, and even the
Mhm.
shape of the body and everything. From just a purely the educational aspect of the art. I do enjoy that, and it's simple. Yet when you zoom out, it does have a photorealistic quality until you zoom, back in a little bit and you just see the simple components that make up the complexity, much like the
Yes.
universe.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
simple, base components that make up extremely complex things.
Hmm.
Yeah. Sorry.
Awesome.
My
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
art
And
Absolutely.
yeah, I feel like something I want to note is I don't take credit for any of these pieces in a way. Like I am the vessel that they come through, but in a
Mm.
way, especially when people compliment them, I'm like, oh yeah. I feel like I don't
Oh,
like
that's right. Yeah, that
I
came
don't
through.
I don't feel it because it feels like more like a vision that came through me and it's its own thing, and I'm just the
Yeah.
vessel that kind of just paints it away. I just okay, this is what's happening.
I get you. I feel the
My
same way with
hand does it, but I don't take credit. Or really, the compliments just kind of they're like, oh, it's to that, it's to that cosmic creativity that is the
It's
true
quite an
artist.
experience, isn't it, to watch something automatically create itself through you.
Yes, yes,
Poems
it's a
that write
meditation, right?
themselves, paintings
It's
that
getting
paint themselves.
the mind and the personality out of the way, being a clean vessel, purifying
Mhm.
oneself so it comes through no impurities. Right?
or minimal
Mm.
impurities.
Minimal,
Yeah.
It's still
always
flushing
trying to
out
be
the
better.
water. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, hey.
Oh, yeah, I like that, though. There's infinite room to grow for
Yeah.
us. There's no cap to enlightenment. We'll never get to the top. And we have these
Yes.
wonderful archetypes like Jesus and Shiva, these transcendent beings that suggest a higher way of being that we'll never reach. So we have this infinite room to grow as a species, and what an exciting thing to get to
Yeah,
partake
and,
in.
and yet
We'll
we're
never
already
be
that,
done.
right? We
I like
are
that.
the infinite. We are the infinite result, and we're, as human forms, perhaps also, at least as particular forms, yes, room to improve, but deep
Mm.
down we are, the ultimate already. More
Yeah.
cosmic jokes. It's all big irony.
So you
Yeah, but
mentioned
that's also what I love about art. There's also so much room. Like, there's no finish line for art. We can always get better at art. That's why in
Mm.
school, I felt like, math, I was like, got the right answer. Felt okay. I felt satisfied. In science, I got the right answer. Okay. But art is like, no matter how hard I try, I couldn't get like 100 on my art project. There's always a little room to get better, and that was fascinating to me, not in like a deteriorating way, but like in
Yeah.
like wow, like there's infinite ways to make it better. Even as a professional artist, I can still spend my whole life getting better, and there's no finish line, but yet every little line, every even splatter of paint is already actually full perfection
Mm.
at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so you mentioned earlier a place where there's, beings that are, you know, what they are, and to a certain extent, like, perfect, but there is no growth. In the Christian mythos, one of the reasons why Lucifer, got all angry is because humans have the potential for progression and growth and to become something more than what they
Mm.
start as. And if there is going to be powerful entities that are going to be jealous of that, it must be a very powerful, wonderful thing to be doing and to be able
Mhm.
to do. With all the good and the bad, the fact that we can grow, we can learn, we can continue to perfect the perfect,
Hmm.
we, to experience the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the beautiful, everywhere in between, and also step off and just look at it as well.
Mm.
And this is a gift where we are in life. Yeah, it's traumatic, and it's, frankly, as a species, we're going through a lot. But I wouldn't want to be alive any other point in time, in the future or the past. Right now is real good. You know, it's real good, and I personally like to encourage more people to work within that assumption. It's like, yeah, we got stuff we got to work on, but it's good. It's a good thing that we are here working on it.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yeah,
Mean
it's
it.
good we have stuff to do, right? That's why we made this whole game, so we have like missions to accomplish and
Yes,
a
you get to
world to
experience
improve.
that sense of
Yes.
accomplishment and that
Yes.
ever available room to grow,
yeah, well,
you
it'd
know?
be terribly boring if we didn't have anything to do. Like, I don't like the idea of just
Yeah.
like sit after I die, just sitting there on a throne in my robe and everything's good. It's like,
Yeah.
uh,
And it's all the difficulties and the hard work that sometimes make it so much more, valued.
Mm,
When
mm,
sometimes when everything's handed over to us, we don't value it versus if we have to go through some real trial and errors, and it's to reach this rare gem of, of happiness, of awakening, then it's so much more special, right? It's
yeah,
all
yes.
about, that quest, the quest of the
well,
hero's quest, right?
it's like
Yeah.
eating the vegetables out of your own garden. Even if you don't really like vegetables, those vegetables taste great because you did
Oh
the work
yeah,
to
so
grow the
much better.
vegetables.
Mhm. Mm,
Yeah, or even like
yeah.
school degrees, if someone just gave you the paper, you'd be like, oh, but like going through all the sleepless nights and, things like that, just anything
Mm.
in life, that difficultness is what makes it feel
Mm.
so valuable in our hearts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
to be able to earn it and the
Hmm.
richness of understanding that comes along with all the trial and tribulation it took to earn it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again, Juliana,
Thank
here
you.
on Actuali Podcast. And I want to encourage everybody that's been listening or watching to check out Juliana's art. You can find all of her stuff on her Instagram as well as on julianagarcesart.com, her website. Check out the description under the video for links to everything. And I'm sure you have plenty of prints available for people to purchase and check out, as well as your classes that you're teaching on visionary art itself. So thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for tuning in. Anything else you'd like to say before we go?
That ultimately it's all within, and what I do is just hopefully create little reminders for people to look for what's within us already, daily life little reminders, and also with my students, I just invite them to do that directly. But ultimately, also, it's already done. We're here. We're at the mountaintop, just distracted by a very fancy hologram.
Yes.
And may all beings be happy and well.
Beautiful. Thank you
Amen to
so
that.
much,
Thank
Juliana.
you.
It's been a pleasure to get to speak with you once again, and best wishes out there as you continue your endeavors in this world. And thank you for your inspiration. And everybody out there, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and
Yeah.
subscribe if you enjoy this episode. And check out Juliana's channel here on YouTube as well. Throw her some likes and subscribes and comments. Help the algorithm more than anything. So we greatly appreciate that. So thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Actual Podcast. It's been Meaning Making 101. I've been Chris.
I've been DJ.
And of course, we've had
Juliana.
Juliana Garces with us today. And we love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Meow. Meow.
Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely.